Good morning, homeschool families. Happy Monday morning to you. I am coming to you with my first ever homeschool YouTube video and my first ever YouTube video. So bear with me as we talk about some important changes in the homeschool law that just happened last month and how this affects you and notification for homeschooling. So last month a law was passed about diplomas for homeschoolers, and this law says that if you want to issue a diploma for your homeschooler, just like you always have, go right ahead, that's fine. But it also has a provision where your local school district superintendent can sign off on your diploma, and this is intended to help end discrimination against homeschoolers when they apply for jobs, when they apply to colleges. Um, Having the superintendent's signature on their diploma, verifying that they have homeschooled in accordance with the law of the state of Ohio. And it adds maybe some extra credibility to those diplomas. So I know some parents are going to want to get that superintendent signature, but that all starts with notification and properly notifying following the Ohio Code for homeschooling. So when I start there and go over that, some of you I know are brand new in your homeschooling journey and you're thinking, oh, I'm not even sure I'm going to homeschool all the way through high school. That's fine. But you still need to make sure that you're notifying correctly each year, because if you do decide to re-enroll your student in the local public schools or in a private Christian school or something like that, you're going to want to make sure that you have those notification letters and all of the paperwork that goes with that. So we're going to jump right in. A great resource for this is going to be the local Christian Home Educators of Ohio website, and you can look them up at www.cheohome.org, cheohome.org, and they have some great resources on their website for you, so I hope that you will check that out. One of their resources is a notification form, and we're going to include a link to that in the comments section, but that notification form is all-inclusive, and it includes everything that you need to send to your uh, local school district superintendent. All of the directions for everything that you need to send are right there on that form, and it doesn't include any extra information that you don't need to send to your superintendent, so that you can make sure that you're homeschooling within the law but not providing extra information that's not really needed or necessary. So as we look at this form, we can see that there are certain topics that we are required to teach unless they conflict with a sincerely held religious belief. And those topics include language arts, which would be reading, spelling, and writing, history of the United States, of the state of Ohio, government, local, state, and federal government, and geography, mathematics, science, health, physical education, fine arts including music, and first aid, safety, and fire prevention. And we're required to send a list of textbooks and a brief outline of what we will be teaching for each of these topics. So, when you look at math, that's fairly simple and straightforward. You include what math textbook you're going to be using, and for an outline, you could just make a copy of the table of contents of that math book and include that. I don't need to include a 180-day lesson plan. Day 1, we will teach this in math. Day 2, we will teach this. That's not necessary. Just that copy of the table of contents is completely fine. That's more than enough. But when we look at some of these other topics like first aid, safety, and fire prevention, maybe we're not going to use the textbook for that. Well, we can include any other resources that we're going to be using on that letter. So we can say, okay, well, we're going to take a field trip to our local fire station, and we're going to talk about fire safety, escape plans from the house, and other household safety, like wearing a helmet when you ride a bike. That's fine. You could say we're going to talk about basic first aid and take a field trip to the Red Cross. That's fine. That's all that's really needed for those types of curriculum. Now, if you're doing something without a boxed curriculum, you're like, well, we don't really have um, a boxed curriculum for language arts. We're going to go to the library and we're going to check books out there. You can include, we're going to utilize the local public library for language arts and read classical literature to include and list some of the titles of the books that you're going to include in your curriculum for the year. This list does not have to be all-inclusive, but it should be a good faith list of what you intend to use for the coming year. Now, if halfway through the year you change your curriculum, you say, well, this math curriculum isn't working, we're going to try something else, that's fine. And you don't have to re-notify, you don't have to tell anybody that you changed your math curriculum halfway through the year. But when you do fill out this list, you want to just give it a good faith effort. This is what we're going to be using for the year, and a complete list. So once you've downloaded that form and filled it out completely, and you've prepared a brief outline of your proposed curriculum and a list of textbooks, remember it can just be a copy, that outline can just be a copy of that table of contents. It can just be a short 3 or 4 sentence paragraph. History, we're going to cover time period from this time to this time, major historical events and figures. That's a brief outline. And you don't have to go really super in depth. Once you've done that, here's a really important step that you need to make sure that you take. Make a copy. Make a copy of everything that you plan to send your school district. Make a copy of it, put it in a folder, keep it in a safe place. That way, just in case something gets lost, which happens, just in case your school district calls you and they say, oh, we never got your notification, we don't know what happened to it. You've got a copy that you can say, oh, I sent it on this day, but hey, I'll provide you another copy of it just so that you have it. You want to make sure that you keep a copy of that information for your records. And especially as you get to homeschooling through high school, having a copy of the table of contents of each book that you're using can be super helpful as you're looking at colleges and what they're going to require, and if there's ever any question, hey, what did you teach for this? You can just provide them with that table of contents, and then there isn't a question. You've got the records. So make sure you keep good records, keep it in a folder, and keep a copy of those notification forms for every year. Now, once you've completed your notification form, you've compiled this brief outline and list of textbooks, you're going to put it in an envelope and you're going to mail it certified mail to your local superintendent. And you're going to want it to reach your superintendent by the first day of school. So we're mid-July right now. Our schools are starting late August. I think August 22nd is the first day of school in our local school district. So we're going to prepare our information over the summer, but we're not going to mail it until the week before school starts. Now, there is a reason for this. When homeschoolers mail their notifications, sometimes they mail them early in the summer, and nobody else has mailed their notification yet, and so the person in the office has a lot of time to kind of look over and peruse that notification very carefully and kind of nitpick a little bit and go, well, we want more information for this, or what about this, what about that? When everybody sends all of their notifications right before the start of school, there isn't enough time for them to nitpick a notification. They're going to scan it, they're going to make sure that it has the correct information, and then they're going to need to send you that excusal letter that's going to become so important, and you'll see why in just a minute. So send in that notification the week before school starts. I would get it there before the first day of school, just so that you're compliant with truancy laws. Now, if you are pulling your student out in the middle of the school year, you have 14 days before your student is considered truant to provide that notification to your superintendent. You don't have to provide it to the local school. You don't have to talk to the principal at the local school, although you don't want to create an adversarial relationship. It is a good idea to just let them know that you are withdrawing from school. You don't have to complete withdrawal forms. You just send your notification to the local superintendent. But if you're notifying at the beginning of the year, like what we're talking about now, you just go ahead and send that form to your local superintendent's office. Now, some superintendents recently have been trying to tell families, hey, send this to this office or that office. You don't send it to us. Send it to a county office or a state office. That's not what the law says. The law says send it to your local superintendent, the superintendent immediately over the students where you live. So We live in a small country school district. There's a superintendent. That's who gets my notification. Not a county person, not a state person, but my local superintendent. That's who I'm required to send my notification to. So I'm going to send that with one of those green certified letter cards that requires a signature to arrive the week before school starts. And I'm going to mail that with that signature card. So I'm going to get that signature card back in the mail showing that I did mail my notification. I'm going to keep that card with all of my other records just in case. Sometimes things get lost. Sometimes they get shuffled together in the office. People go, we didn't get your notification this year. That's okay. I have proof that I sent it, and I will certainly provide you with another copy of it if that's what you need. But we want to make sure that we keep those certified mail cards. Now, why is it important that we keep those cards? Well, the local superintendent has 14 days to provide you with an excusal letter or ask you for more information about your notification. And when we all send those together, again, there isn't the time to nitpick, so they just scan through, make sure they meet the requirements of the law, and send out those excusal letters. But if we don't get an excusal letter from our local school district, that's when we're going to want to contact the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and we're going to want to let them know that, hey, I provided this and I didn't get a letter back, and I've tried to call and follow up with my local superintendent, and they're telling me, oh, we get those letters out when we get them out, or we don't send letters of excusal. So the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, I would strongly encourage you to join, and they're going to be able to help advocate for you to make sure that you are getting those excusal letters. Why are those excusal letters so important? Well, when it's time to graduate your student, having those excusal letters to show to your local superintendent is what you're going to need to get that superintendent to sign your diploma if that's what you choose to do. You don't have to have a superintendent sign your diploma. You can issue a diploma. It is perfectly valid for you to do that. But if you want your superintendent to sign your diploma, you're going to need those excusal letters to get them to do that. And once you can show that you've been homeschooling in compliance with Ohio law because you have your excusal letters, then you can get your superintendent to sign your diploma. So keeping your excusal letters in a safe place with all of your records, again, you need to do that. You need to hang on to that information. Other benefits of having an excusal letter, some parents carry a copy of their excusal letter in their purse or in their wallet, just so that if anybody stops them and says, why aren't your kids in school? Or gives them a hard time about it, they can produce an excusal letter. I've never had that happen. I probably wouldn't produce an excusal letter unless it was law enforcement or something, but I wouldn't worry about that contingency, but some parents do, and they want to have that excusal letter with them. Also, that excusal letter can get you discounts to fun field trips like COSI or the Columbus Zoo, where you can get a discounted student rate during the week for admission. It's a nice thing to have, but also you're going to need to have your excusal letters. Now, in Facebook world, we've seen on some of the homeschooling messaging boards some really spectacularly bad advice to parents. Things like, well, you don't really need your excusal letter as long as you have that green card. Or, well, if the school district calls you, don't answer the phone, and sort of creating an adversarial relationship between you and the school district. If you don't have to do that, don't do that. Having your school district in an adversarial relationship with you just isn't wise. And we want to live at peace with all men as much as we are able. So just answer the phone if they call. You don't have to give them a lot of information. Just be polite. Take notes. I want to really help you solve your paperwork problem, whatever it is you need. Let me write down what you're needing. Okay, I'll get back with you. And then contact the HSLDA and let them know, hey, I got a call. This is what they want. Is this legit? Or do I need to follow up another way? Or would you like to follow up for me? To advocate for me. That's why we strongly encourage our parents to be a member of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, because it helps keep some of those overstepping things in bounds. And they can just send a letter that says, hey, that's not necessary. We're not going to do that. And then school districts back off and they don't give us a hard time anymore. So I would strongly encourage you to be a member of your local the CHIO, our Ohio advocates, and also of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, our national advocates for homeschooling. Um, and once you have completed all this information, you've submitted your notification, you're good to go. That's all that's required for homeschooling in the state of Ohio. Now, at the end of the year, you are going to need to complete an assessment, and if you need to find an assessor, I would contact CHIO, or you're going to need to complete a standardized nationally normed test, and you can look up information for that online. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, we're going to keep that going in the comments, or any comment suggestions, go ahead and post those there. And good luck and happy homeschooling. Have a great day.